welcome back to another edition of Movies That Move We. Today we will be talking about Miss Evers' Boys. Now I hope you're not like me if you hadn't heard about this film before and thought it was about Medgar Evers and his mom and them. It's not. This is it's a fictionalized telling of the Tuskegee project. And if you don't know what that is, let me tell you a little bit about it. Tuskegee, Alabama, there was a pretty decent population of black men who had syphilis. And, the government saw it and said, hey, perfect opportunity for us to explore how the progress of this disease. And so they set up shop in Tuskegee, told these men, hey, we're going to treat you for the condition. They didn't tell them that they were research subjects. They didn't tell them they weren't getting treatment. And these men did not give consent to basically be used as guinea pigs. This project ran from, 1932 to 1932 to 1972. Okay, so they were allowing men with syphilis, black men with syphilis, to just ride the disease out. And it's not a comfortable disease. You can get it, it can go dormant, it can come back up. There's like 5 stages to the condition. You'll end up with skin lesions. There are some people who survived it. The biggest problem here, beyond the fact that they were experimenting on black bodies, was that when it was found out that penicillin was the cure, none of these men were given the option.
Never told that some of them would die if they took it.
Well, no. In reality.
No, yeah, but I'm just saying in the movie, that's what they were.
They were telling them that if you take it, you could die, which wasn't true. But talking about the movie, it's not based on a specific story, but it is inspired by a nurse who did work with some patients during that time. So we have in the role of Nurse Evers, Alfre Woodard. Caleb Humphreys is her love interest, who is played by Lawrence Fishburne, and I believe he's one of the producers of the film. Dr. Douglas is played by Craig Sheffer, and he is the white doctor who is leading the experiment. We have Dr. Sam Brodus, who's played by Joe Morton, aka Papa Pope. Those of you who know. He is the black doctor that is leading it, because if you have something like this going on, you got to get black people to talk to black people. Mm-hmm. Willie Johnson is played by Oba Babatunde. Hodman Bryan is played by Van Coulter. Ben Washington is played by Tom Gossam Jr. So Caleb, Willie, Hodman, and Ben, they're referred to as Miss Evers' boys. And all of them were participants in the study, in this film. And then the late, great Ossie Davis played Alfre Woodard's father, Mr. Evans. So this is going back, like I said, 1930s, Tuskegee. Black people were still working in the fields. There were still sharecroppers. And it was a big deal that she, Eunice Evers, was a nurse. She's working in the hospital. She's working with doctors. She wasn't a servant or anything like that. She recognized it. Her father recognized it. It was the type of career that could have taken her anywhere. Mm-hmm. When this came up, she was the head nurse under Dr. Brodus, so Joe Morton. She was working with him, and he said, hey, I'm taking you with me. We're going to Tuskegee. There's something happening down there that they want us to be a part of. That happened to be the area where she grew up.
Mm-hmm.
So Caleb, she was already familiar with because he used to pull her pigtails in class. So there was some relationship there, and her relation built with the other three men to the point that, you know, they were performers in the community. They named their band after her. The whole thing gets sticky because at a certain point she realizes that, wait a minute, we're not treating them, we're just doing research. And she was excited at first because the government's paying for it. They're giving these guys, they're going to help the black people. And there were a handful of people who were wary. But when they heard, what, I can get a free meal?
I can get free rides and all this other.
You know, the government is catering to me. They were like, all right, sign me up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let you take it from here. What were your thoughts about, well, first of all, I'm going to ask the question I usually ask. Is this something you learned about in school?
No, not at all. And what was crazy was when I because I was actually the one that chose the movie.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw it, I'd never even really heard about it. But when I saw it, I was like, oh, you know what? Based off of the description, I was like, this might be a good watch. It seems like something that might be educational, because this is something, again, we weren't taught about in school.
Mm-hmm.
So to watch it, and then like even down to the way things were kind of broken down to these men when they're coming into their community and telling them what they're going to do and how the government is funding this and everything like that. It was kind of surreal for me to watch, because it's just like they really kind of felt like they had to not only bring Miss Evers and the black doctor in to kind of facilitate or help facilitate these conversations with these men, but it was almost like, oh, we have to kind of dumb it down for them too, because whereas the white doctor that came in was kind of like, hey, technical. You know, I want to get technical with these guys and let them know the exact diagnosis. Miss Evers and the other doctor involved were like, no, we should probably kind of tell them something different.
I don't think they were dumbing it down. I think, okay, let me not say that. Yes, they were, but
by saying blood, like, oh, it's something in your blood. Like, I'm just like,
no. And she explained that what she said to the doctor was, you have to talk to them in their language. If you tell them that they have a virus, they're going to panic, and we won't have anyone to complete the study with. So they understand illness is something in the blood. So that's what we're going to tell them, that there's something in the blood. We're going to give them some treatments to help heal them.
Mm. And
they'll be more willing to go along with it if we phrase it in terms that they comprehend. Okay, that's like a lawyer trying to speak to you in legal vernacular, and you're going, my rights are what?
And there was a scene in the movie where the white doctor is like telling him what he's about to do and what testing they're about to kind of go through and everything, and why they're being tested for this. And they're just all standing there looking at him like,
you gonna do what?
And Miss Evers kind of had to step in. But I just felt like throughout the whole film, there were so many things that, and what was crazy was there was kind of like that little bit of a contrast, because here it is, you know, they're kind of talking like that to the rest of them. They're not giving them full information as to what's going on. And Lawrence Fishburne's character, Caleb, he actually was kind of already educating himself. You know, he let Miss Evers know, look, like, you don't think I can read? I'm going to the library and I'm looking this stuff up myself.
Yeah. And he asked for a book. Yeah. Because he was like, I want to know more about this.
Exactly. So he kind of, even though he was also not given a lot of information, Miss Evers did kind of offer up a little bit of information to him in the beginning, but he kind of already knew in the back of his mind certain things and something wasn't right. Yeah, so he was kind of already hip to what was going on. But unfortunately, these other guys that were involved in this process, they just didn't know, and they kind of like leaned on Miss Evers a little bit to kind of take them through this process. And it's unfortunate because if they were a little bit more honest and even a little bit more, instead of using them as guinea pigs, actually got them the help that they needed, they would have been fine. You know, they would have lived normal lives. You know, oh my gosh, I keep drawing a blank with his name. Caleb, when he went to the military, he said, look, I got that penicillin shot because one, this was my only way to get into the military properly. But two, like, I'm not messing around with my health. Like, I'm doing whatever I have to do. And he was kind of trying to encourage the other men to do the same, but
the role of the medical team in this situation was to just monitor the progress of the disease and keep them from getting treatment elsewhere. And there's a scene in the film where one of the guys, he's like, I can't take it anymore. Caleb takes him to a hospital to get the penicillin. And the nurse turns around, looks at the clipboard and says, no, you can't have it. And they were like, why can't he get it? And she said, because you're on the list, I can't give it to you.
Because he was a part of this experiment.
So all of the hospitals in the area had the names of all of the men who were being researched, and they refused them care when they came to it. And in this situation, it was Willie. Willie was the dancer in the group. You know, he was hopping up and down, you know, dancing like they do at the Cotton Club, and he had dreams of getting there, and it started to affect his mobility. So he was like, I can't live like this. I need to have it fixed. Caleb didn't tell him exactly what was going on, even though he had an inkling. And he did try to talk to Eunice about it and say, okay, what aren't you telling me? And she was like, I can't. And I think part of the reason why she said she can't, she was told that she can't and she shouldn't. And then the other part was she was ashamed, because once she realized what this really was, she was like, I can't tell anybody that I'm knowingly a part of this. And she was offered an opportunity. She was about to take the opportunity to go back up north for work. And she changed her mind because she was like, these guys need me. I can't leave them. In other words, I helped put them in this predicament. I can't abandon them.
She went through a tremendous like internal struggle to the point where it even affected the relationship she had with Caleb, because it was like, here it is, they were in love, they kind of wanted to go away together and all of that, but she had the guilt of kind of how this whole process started, and then the guilt of like kind of what happened after that, how these men were affected. And then here it is, you know, Caleb comes back from the war and everything, and he's like, look, like, you know, the deed has been done. This is already happening. Like, we need to just go start our lives. And she's like, I can't leave these guys behind. Like, I just can't do it. And it unfortunately affected their personal lives, because it's kind of like, had this experiment not even happened, none of them would be in this predicament at all. Right. So,
right. And so, back to reality, a lot of things came out of this time period. Rules were put in place. Once this was revealed, and, you know, the public expressed outrage over it, new policies were put into place to make sure that, you know, people were aware of when they were part of medical research. So Now you are invited to clinical studies. You don't just become a guinea pig because someone says, you know what, I want to see how long this person survives if they have XYZ disease. You have to be offered, you have to be compensated, you have to be treated like a human being and not a lab rat. That's required by law. There are institutional review boards. So one set of doctors can't come up with this experiment, run it privately, and then do what they want with the information. If you're going to have a clinical trial, then there's a review board to make sure that you are following all processes and protocols that are laid out to make sure that the patient is cared for. And you know, this movie kind of speaks to, and you being a medical professional, you're aware of some of this. It kind of speaks to what impacts mortality rate amongst African Americans. And while it has improved, there's still room for improvement, plenty of room for improvement, because the mortality rate, birth rate between Black women and white women, there's still a gap there. Same thing for breast cancer. There's still a gap there. And I can speak from my own experience when trying to get assistance with health issues. You're probably going to have to go through, as a Black woman, you're probably going to have to go through a few doctors before you can get what you need. I had a talk with my doctor the other day, and she was like, oh, I recommend this doctor. And I was like, went to them, and I didn't even get into it with her about how racist this doctor was towards me. I just said no. And I think that's where I related to Caleb, because he was like, I'm advocating for myself.
For myself.
I'm here, but I have a lot of questions that I need
and
answered.
I love that about his character, because I feel like, and I try to kind of impress this upon the patients I work with in general, because as a human being, like, you have to be researching, you have to be thoughtful and thorough with your own health care. Like, you have to be questioning these doctors, you know, and asking them about this stuff, because
they don't know it all.
They don't know it all. There are some doctors that go by the book, or they are just trying to sell these you know, medications to get perks and things like that. It's kind of like, you have to be your own advocate. You have to research yourself, because here it is in this scenario. It's like, if he didn't do that research on his own and like kind of take that extra step and try to figure things out on his own, he would have been just like some of those men that ended up dead, because it's like, you know, you got to kind of ask more questions and care more about your health, and not just listen to what a healthcare provider or whatever is telling you all the time.
Yeah. There was one guy, and I didn't write his name down in the notes, did all the research, looked him up. His name was Charlie. I can't remember his last name now. I'll try and put up a picture of him, but he was one of the last survivors of the Tuskegee Experiment. And the reason why I remembered him is because they did a report about him, and he wore a hat at all times, because again, when you get syphilis, if it's not treated or treated quickly, you start to get lesions. And they kind of represented that in the movie, where these guys had like marks on their face. He had marks on his scalp. And so he used to wear a hat to hide it. But he was, and which president was it? I don't remember if it was
Roosevelt?
No, because this was in like the 90s.
Oh, the
shortly
90s.
Before he passed. But he was given some kind of medal by the president for his involvement and survival, because Black people are rewarded for surviving. He was given a reward for that, but that man suffered through all of that And, I think he died I want to say he passed away in 2009. Darn, I wish I had notes on it, but I'll try and put that up at the end. All in all, as far as historical content, I feel like this was pretty accurate. Even though it's a fictionalized movie, I think it was pretty accurate. If you're not aware of the Tuskegee Experiment, I definitely say watch it. Go down the rabbit hole, get online, do the research. And once again, sit your kids down to watch it. I think the news just broke today that apparently at the federal level, Black History Month is being canceled. So, look, don't let it be canceled in your house. Celebrate, educate, make sure you know about stuff like this, because as we can see, history is starting to repeat itself in a very backwards way. So, that being said, hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to like, share, follow, subscribe to our YouTube page, also our Facebook page, even though I'm trying to move us off of Meta completely because reasons. Our group on Facebook is called Movies That Move We. You can also find me on the Spill app. Download it. It's a vibe. It's nice and quiet over there. Under my page, which is Nikay Writes, NIKEWRITES, and also on Fanbase, same name, Nikay Writes. And YouTube, where Movies That Move We is the name of the playlist. We have more than 2 years of movie discussions that you can check out. And hey, we like comments on the old stuff, so feel free. But definitely let us know what you thought of this movie. And what are we doing? I don't think we've decided on the next movie.
We haven't decided on the next movie, but there are some runner-ups. I know the next two that we're looking at is The Piano Lesson and Fences. Those are like the top two options for the next go-round.
Right. And so we'll keep you posted on that. There will be no show next week, but the first week of February, we're going all in.
And we're celebrating Black History Month over here.
We are. We don't care who don't like it. We're celebrating ourselves. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. And until next week, we'll see you later.
Goodbye.
Bye.